Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Christensen. I am one of the partners here at Angstman Johnson, managing the firm. This is a part of a series of courses that we've put together that address different aspects of the COVID-19 situation, mostly from a legal standpoint, but this one today will be a little bit different. It's more sort of business-oriented than legal-oriented. We have a seminar coming up later this week. Chad Moody will address the farming and ranch industry, and we've also done several seminars that are already available. You can find them on the firm's website. There's also a YouTube channel that there's a link from the firm's website, and we're trying to post each one to the Facebook and LinkedIn pages as well. Today, really the topic is positioning your business for recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. I'll be presenting top 10 issues to be aware of, top 10 things to plan for as we move forward. So again, this is the top 10 points or issues to be aware of in positioning your business to move forward. So the first one on my list is both creating or making some healthcare related decisions for your company and then informing your clients of those things. First off, dealing with your employees. We need to make sure that our employees are protected. If they're still working from home, make sure that we have the collaboration tools in place, whether that's Zoom platform to allow meetings that way, whether it's Microsoft Teams has a pretty good communication structure. If employees are working here in the office or at your facility, make sure that the CDC tips are being followed, that you've got the distancing, that you also have the healthcare products in place. So if you need to be consistently wiping down facilities, wiping down door handles, etc., make sure you have the products to do that. Hand sanitizer, that sort of thing. Those do seem to be picking up more in the local retail shops, so you can find them if you search, if you get there early in the morning. And like I said, make sure that those CDC guidelines are met. Those are changing almost every week, if not every day. So keep your eye on those, make sure we're doing what we need to do. Encourage your employees' health, both physical and mental. I've noticed, at least with myself, as I sit at home all day long, I am not getting the interaction with our employees that I used to. I'm interacting more with my kids and my family, of course, but that's not the entire world that I'm used to interacting with. Most of employer insurance plans will cover a limited amount of mental health counseling, usually 4 to 5 sessions an insurance plan will cover. Encourage your employees to use those as necessary. Then communicate these healthcare steps to your customers, to your clients. Let them know that, look, our office is a clean environment. If you do need to come in, our manufacturing facility is a clean environment, whatever the issue is. Let them know that it's going to be safe to come visit if they need to. Let them know what steps you've taken. And then pay attention to those clients' concerns. If they have concerns, use your own collaborative tools to meet with the clients or to answer their questions, or set up a separate spot to meet to help address some of those issues. So that's tip number 1, informing your clients of those decisions and then moving forward with them. Tip number 2, create some sort of protocol or operating procedure for those employees that want to continue working remotely. Depending on your industry, there may not be a way for them to work remotely. They just need to return to work. But I think one thing we're finding is that there are plenty of opportunities, even in some industries that maybe wouldn't have thought so, for those employees to work remotely. But you need to have a plan in place for how that work is going to take place. There need to be the collaboration tools in place. We don't want an employee just being a sort of island out there that no one ever communicates with and they just sit and work or sit and don't work. We need to have some sort of reporting structure in place, make sure that there's a way to sort of monitor those employees, make sure they're being productive. Productivity from the employees doesn't have to happen between 8 in the morning and 5 p.m. It may be that for this employee, they're more productive from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And this remote working allows them to do that. Of course, remote working also helps with the social distancing that we're still required to comply with for now. If you have employees working from home, that helps the office or the workspace be less crowded and helps you socially distance. at your office. But creating some sort of protocol that everyone understands, everyone knows, to be able to work remotely will be important. Tip number 3, evaluate your business plan. So at the beginning of the year, most people did budgets, sort of planned out for the year where they thought they would be. I think for most businesses, those budgets are shot at this point, and you need to revise that. Collect the data that you need to collect. How did 2020's first 4 months compare with 2019's first 4 months? How did the actual 4 months compare with the projected 4 months? And what needs to change? Is it something that the company can just absorb and move forward? Is it something that you need to increase your revenue somehow to overcome those losses? Sit down and plan those things out. How are you going to do that? Evaluate whether there were purchases that needed to be made, major purchases. Can those wait? Or are those things that need to be put into place right now? Are there bills that need to be paid but maybe don't need to be paid just yet, and you can put those off for a bit and recover a little bit more, build yourself a rainy day fund? Those are the sort of things you should evaluate when you're looking at your business plan. Not just your business plan, but tip 4 is to look at your business operations. Are there things that can change or things that need to be updated? Look at your company's governing documents. Do you have bylaws for your company? Do you have an operating agreement for your company? Should those be put into place now before we rebound back into running our business? If you have multiple owners, is there a buy-sell agreement in place? If someone disagrees with how to recover, is there a way to sort of amicably part ways with your partners, or is that going to be its own fight? Look at the other contracts that your business is in. Are you in a lease agreement that needs to be renegotiated? Are there loan documents that you need to request forbearance on or some sort of accommodation from the lender? Many of the lenders will be accommodating if you talk to them, if you contact them first and request the assistance that you need. If you simply ignore it and hope that they don't notice that you didn't make certain loan payments, that's not going to go over too well. Look at your employees, the payroll that you're paying. Are there ways to cut that payroll if you need to in order to keep your business in place? Everyone always knows or talks about that payroll is your biggest expense. In many cases, that's true. Is there a way to trim some of that expense? Can you furlough employees for several days a month? I know some of the educational institutions around are starting to do that. Are there options for employees to work from home and trim some of the office-related expense, the overhead expense, any of those sorts of things? If you're a company that bills customers, sends invoices to customers, make sure you're doing that quickly. You don't necessarily need to wait till the end of the month to send an invoice. If the work was completed on the 5th, then send an invoice on the 6th. The sooner you get the bill out, quicker it's going to get paid. So just generally look at both your business plan moving forward and your operation itself. How is that operation moving forward? How are we doing with our employees? Are there employees that aren't being as productive as they could? Is there a way to address that? Tip number 5, evaluate business loan options. If there is a need for that, look at the different programs. Federal government, of course, has some stimulus loan programs that they've put into place. Talked about those in previous seminars. We won't necessarily get into detail here, but everyone's heard about the PPP loans, payroll protection plan loans, that are now in the second round of funding. I was reading this morning about some hiccups that they're experiencing with the second round and restrictions that the Treasury is putting in place on banks that are lending. There's still a projection that these loan funds will also be fully tapped within about 2 or 3 days of today, which is similar to that first round that went around. So hopefully some of the restrictions this time will help the funds get deeper down to those smaller companies that they're actually meant for, but only time will tell some of that. There's also economic injury disaster loans. These are also loans that the SBA makes. These are directly from the SBA. You don't go through a local lender, but these are potentially an option. Additionally, almost every bank has loan programs that they've developed that are available for these types of situations in these businesses. So be in constant contact with your lender and make sure that you are participating and taking advantage of those programs that are out there. Tip number 6, pay attention to your loyal customers or your loyal clients. These are the customers or clients that you hope will keep coming back over and over and over. Pay attention to them. keep them happy, whether that's through providing the products to them that they need, anticipating the services that they need. Strengthen your relationships with those customers and those clients. Reach out to each of them individually if you need to, just to make sure that they know that you're doing your best to help them keep their business running. I'm going to, for some of these last points, throw out some examples of both good and bad things I've noticed with businesses, both local and national. First one comes really with this point, is the supporting your local business and strengthening the relationship with those customers. In our building here in downtown Boise, we have a little bodega down on the first floor. That's when the Corona crisis first happened, the owner had to lay off all of the employees and basically was running the shop himself for several weeks. That caused a lot of us in the building to go down as much as we could and help keep that bodega alive, because we all appreciated being down there. And recently he's been able to bring employees back in and is keeping the company going, but he also has started stocking hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes and this sort of thing down in the bodega. And we've discovered that he can order bulk hand sanitizer, so gallons of hand sanitizer, and we're trying to order those things through him just to keep that business open. It may cost a little bit more to get the gallon from him versus going to Lowe's or Home Depot, but it's worth it to keep his business going. So strengthen those loyal customer relationships is an important point. If you're a shop that isn't open, let's say you're a local restaurant and you had to close, or you had to at least close the inside dining. For loyal customers, loyal folks, offer them some kind of a discount when they first come back. Every order they make for the first month, they get a 10% off on or something along those lines. Consider if those loyal customers' needs have changed. So if you're an IT company, for example, does your company need greater support for the remote work that their customers or their employees are now doing? If you're a restaurant, will your customers want more delivery and takeout options now that they've experienced that for the last month? Or will they want limited menus? Evaluate all of those things and whether customers need the same service that they got before or something different. Tip number 7, pivot to assisting different sectors or roll out additional services and products. We've all sort of seen that restaurants have had to shift how they provide food to folks, and that's through pickup or delivery. If customers want that more, then those inside dining restaurants will need to provide those things. We've seen with education that there's going to be more online learning. They're even projecting that some universities for the entire next year will be doing just online only class. And that may be a way that the university has to pivot to providing those sort of opportunities. That also then will require the students to pivot. Some students do better with inside courses, with live courses. And if your university is going for an entire year or more with just online courses, then do you just deal with it, take the online course? Do you take a year off of school and then go back, or do you find a whole different university that's doing live courses? So it's going to require a lot of changes. We've also seen, this has been interesting from my perspective, entertainment has changed. So of course, movie theaters are closed, other sorts of theaters are closed, and some of those entertainers are turning to more online options. A couple of recent examples that I found are interesting that probably only would have happened because of the fact that we're all quarantined. A original Hamilton cast reunion that was done on John Krasinski's show that was great, and only would have happened because of the fact that we're all doing streaming entertainment rather than something different. For those interested, yesterday, Josh Gad entertained a complete reunion of all of the original Goonies actors, and that's just one of those things that would only occur because of the fact that we've had to change how we seek out our entertainment, and is a perfect example of those entertainers having to pivot and provide the entertainment in a whole different fashion. So figure out what additional services or products you can provide, your company can provide, and set your clients up with those things. Tip number 8, find the e-version of whatever you're currently doing offline in the office. We've all had to do this a bit with web conferences, this sort of training that we're doing now, virtual conferences rather than in-person conferences. That may be something that we see a lot more of in the future. For service businesses, doing an electronic consult, so a Zoom meeting consult with the client versus an in-person meeting with the client. Title companies are doing a lot more e-signings versus in-person, have to have a wet signature signing. We've seen a lot of piano teachers, yoga teachers, dance teachers still instructing their students, but doing it remotely. I have 2 children that are in piano lessons, and they've continued doing piano lessons through the whole thing. They just FaceTime with their teacher from our house, and she's at her house, and they continue their lessons that way. Even the court systems have changed. The U.S. Supreme Court, for I think the first time ever, is doing video conference oral arguments on Supreme Court cases in the month of May. Local courts have done the same thing. A lot of hearings are telephonic now versus in person, and video conference versus in person. Finding that new way of doing the same operation you used to is going to be important as well. Tip number 9, prepare for the increased demand. At some point, businesses are going to be coming back, customers are going to be coming back. Look at your supply chain. If you're a product business, look at your supply chain. Is it going to be able to help or hinder your performance moving forward? Your supplier is struggling to operate right now. How is that going to affect your business when you're back in line? Survey your existing customers. Figure out what is it they're going to be most after as soon as they can return to the marketplace, to the economy. And then prepare your business to provide those things, whatever they are. The first few weeks is going to be interesting as customers clamor for the things they've been without for the last 6 weeks. A good example of this I saw yesterday, the state of Utah opened some of their national parks, and were just flooded with people wanting to visit the park, and had to close the parks again after a couple of hours because so many people had showed up just for the chance to be outside. For service businesses, look at what your clients' needs are going to be able to anticipate what their most immediate problems are, and be prepared to address them as quickly as you can. Tip number 10, stay nimble and positive. Everybody's noticed that with the virus situation, things change almost on a daily basis. Whether it's guidance from your states on what businesses can stay open, what have to stay closed, what the CDC requirements are for distancing and providing those sorts of services. A lot of businesses have employees that have to travel. The travel restrictions in your state may be different from the restrictions in a different state. An issue that came up yesterday was a court hearing that got continued until the point that travel restrictions are lifted, but the governor's requirement is still that if you come in from out of state, that you've got to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. And so the issue was, if an attorney's coming from out of state, do they have to be here for 2 weeks? Can they just stay for the one day of the hearing? If you have employees that travel a lot, make sure you understand the travel restrictions for all the different states that they're in. Communicate with your employees. The more they stay informed and the more they know what's happening, the more positive they're going to be. If your employees are positive, your customers or clients will have a better experience as well. And then as the business leader, I think you have to retain perspective yourself. Make sure that you're supporting yourself. As you lead those around you, you need to make sure that your own physical and mental health are being addressed as well. It's really hard to lead those around you when you're struggling yourself. I do have one bonus tip that we'll throw in at the end. Make an appointment with your barber or your hairstylist, and make that appointment right now. Don't wait till 3 weeks from now when those businesses may be able to open, but get it going right now. We don't want to have people return to work looking like these 2 photos on the screen. So just a quick recap. Number 1, make the healthcare decisions, communicate those to your clients. 2, create a protocol for remote work. 3rd, evaluate your business plan, review your business operations, evaluate what loan options may be out there if you need them. Pay attention to your loyal customers and what they care about. Pivot to new services and products. Figure out what your own version of your company is and implement that. Prepare for the increased demand, and then stay nimble and positive. There's some contact information for me at the firm there at the end, but I did notice there's one of the chat comments is discounted gift certificates. Other ways to sort of retain those current clients and those current customers are going to be important. Well, I appreciate everyone chiming or tuning in, and I'll go ahead and sign this one off now. Encourage you to participate in the additional classes that we're doing, to go to the firm's website and review some of those other things that we posted already. I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.